I want to completely shift gears here. I want to get your take on the election, the political, because I mean, I follow you on Twitter. You know, I mean it's hard not to. It's hard not to be swept up in just the cultural moment of change. It seems like, and radical in the sense, and to see these things. I guess what's your general take on what's happening right now with the, what do you call it, red wave, or what's your also, how do you?
I call it the red religion.
Okay, so
remember that, dude? Do you have familiarity with that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Blue Church.
Awesome.
I mean,
yeah, okay.
So I mean, that makes the sense. Red religion, Blue Church. Is that what you? Yeah. Is that the okay?
That's what I called it way back in 2016.
So, but I mean, I saw you posted on, or you retweeted, I guess it was the Naval Ravikant talking to Scott Adams, and it's like, you know, these people from Silicon, your kind of heritage in the States, Silicon Valley, and this, you know, Elon Musk is like the archetype of that world, and it's like, I can imagine it's just not, it's hard not to be excited in a certain way that this is gonna, there is a possibility for that to enter in, shake things, you know, was it Zuckerberg, move fast and break things, you know, like opportunity, that Silicon Valley culture to just, you know, completely collide with the government in a certain way. It seems like that's kind of happening, and I just want to get your general thoughts and takes on the cultural moment related to this election and all that.
Well, as you might imagine, there's going to be a lot. So
buckle in.
Well, don't. What I want to do is say maybe open. Like there's a lot. So no particular thing. Don't let that close, but just say okay.
Okay.
So for example, I think it's notable that, you know, Naval is not Elon, and Elon is not Vivek, and Vivek is not Mark Andreessen, and there's no particular point upon which these people all agree. They have different lives. They come from different contexts. They have different relationships to lots of different kinds of things. And the way that they have begun to orient towards pointing in a similar direction is meaningful. And it's actually a very meaningful thing. It tells you that there's something about that direction that has consilience, right? There's a reality to it. All right, so that's one. Two, it is actually quite potent, and from my point of view, quite what was the word you said? Not enthusiasm, but in that same vernacular. When the great men of an era are aligned to go work on something, right? And it's all, in some sense, all social. Like the likelihood that real shit is not going to get done is low.
Yep.
Because the people who have been gifted by God with the potency to do real shit are now all picking up shovels at the same time. It might not get done. It's very difficult. I mean, very difficult to know. But if there's ever been a moment in, I don't know, since World War II, where things were going to change in a big way, now is it. And that's so that's one vector. One vector is you are actually for the first time seeing the actual people who are the best at getting shit done. And this doesn't matter, by the way, whether you like the shit they do or whether you like them personally, but they get shit done potently, right? They can lift heavy rocks. And they're all gathered.
Heavy rockets.
Yeah, they can lift heavy rockets. And they're all pointing more or less in the same basic direction. That may not last for a long time, but this has like a World War II sort of sensibility. It's like, hey, you all don't like each other, but we're all going to get together and fight those guys. They're like, okay, boom. And you know, you got your, what was it called? Oppenheimer. Remember when he starts, he's just yelling at that scientist, like, why would we do that? It's like, because the fucking fate of the world hangs in the balance. Okay. That's kind of what's up.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Next. I am reasonably confident. I'm certainly acting as if, so I have an existential commitment to what I'm about to say. I'm reasonably confident that we have, in fact, actually moved through a cultural transition moment. And we've moved through a portal, to use Eric Weinstein's sensibility. I don't think it's just a a honeymoon. That what had to emerge from 2016, right? The Red Religion, the arc of that, right? What had to happen for that to come into enough self-consciousness and agency to be able to overcome these significant forces arrayed against it to break through is a real thing. Right? That's a birth-giving process. That's how it happened and how it happens in general. Okay, so something new. We're in something new. And we're in something new, if we'd like to say, that is akin to, say, the Depression, World War II moment, or akin to the Civil War moment, or akin to the Revolutionary War moment, like this kind of thing that comes sort of every 4 or 5 generations and has lots of change built into it. Okay, so that's 2. Objectively, we have been poised at the edge of crisis for a while. So there's a lot of different crises that are occurring simultaneously. We have the crisis of accelerating change, right? We have the crisis of AI. We have the crisis of the geopolitical realignment, right? We have the crisis of our human relationship with the environment. We have the crisis of the insane death cult that has taken complete control of our entire culture, all the way down to the finest granularity. And I don't mean like coarse grain stuff, like Canadian suicide buckets. I mean school and watching TV and being on cell phones, like everything, food, right? Everything is insidious, distributed Moloch worship. Yeah, just take that. We actually do live inside an insidious, distributed Moloch worshiping cult. And we've been there, right? That's where we've been. And perhaps we have the escape velocity to get out of it, or at least get away from it for a moment. Perhaps.
Something I want to interject is, you can say that in one way, and Alex Jones says that in a completely different way.
I could try, but I can't really pull an Alex Jones. The guy's got verve. He's got a obviously.
What I'm trying to say, well, yes, I know, but he's been saying that for a long time.
Mm-hmm. This is the thing, as far as I can tell, and I remember this about the frogs being gay, because I happened to be having a conversation with the guy who's the world's expert on the concentration of estrogens in fresh waters and the effects on amphibians. Before I saw Alex Jones, when I saw Alex Jones saying they're making the frogs gay, I'm like, yeah, that's actually, I mean, it's a weird, but it's exactly correct in a weirdly poetic way. And so a lot of the stuff he says, I take as, well, I don't know why it is that you articulate it in this fashion, but if I can understand it properly, you're pointing to something which is profound and true.
Yeah. Well, cults and these things are no longer really separate, or like you said, they're going all the way down in our phones, and popular culture is just, completely inundated. There's no separation. And the 26, we go back to that date. I felt it in my life. I had a significant change in my life at the same time. Like, that's when things just came to a complete head with truth in my own life and culturally. And so I've been riding this wave too, in a certain way since. And it just felt to me like this, that the amount of gaslight just came to a point. That's how it's felt. That's just how it's felt. You could listen to some people talk about it on Rebel Wisdom, or you could see these things happen. And some, 20-year-old is at the Capitol during the riots in 2020. And I'm like watching this in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, just like my mind is being blown, the George Floyd riots and all this stuff. And yet it's like, well, Trump's policy on this versus Kamala Harris's policy on, I'm just like, that's not what is. How is that the, just, no, we need to look at yes, to a degree, but it just seems like it's so much that is in itself a gaslight, if you believe that that's actually like really important, because it's like, you can't even look at like how someone voted, in the Senate over the last their career and say, oh no, they're not talking about that now. There's something else. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like,
well, so maybe like this is a thing that I've been thinking about over the past few days, in terms of a narrative emerged and is endeavoring to cough its way out of the last vestiges of the legacy, legacy media, that some individuals appointed to the cabinet are quote unquote not competent or not, what's the right word? Credentialed, some word like that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about credentialed culture.
And as I thought, and I actually, even on Twitter, people who I would think, from my point of view, would maybe be able to think more clearly about it, have also either said stuff that I'm like, that doesn't seem right, or are confused. And the way my mind like settled on it was, well, let's say, for example, like the guy who's the Secretary of Defense, I think Esgath is his name. I don't know him. I don't know much about him. But let's say, oh, if you think he's being appointed to run this machine, then yeah, okay, you're right. That he's not a good choice for that. But if he's appointed to dismantle it and to fight against it with commitment and with a certain level of self-sacrifice, then he may be exactly the right guy. All right. So it's like, what world are you living in? What nature, what is the question that you think is actually being asked? And which is a frame control, because gaslighting is also a lot about frame control. Right? So if we're trying to maintain a frame of, no, keep feeding the machine, then the proposition that this person is not competent implies that keep feeding the machine is the frame. You don't say keep feeding the machine, you say it's not competent, which implies, oh, well, how could that make sense? And maybe even tribally, if I want to be part of this tribal, I have to adopt that frame unconsciously. So that kind of stuff is going on. But I want to go a little bit deeper because, much more evidently, I think this was true very much profoundly in 2016, but much more evidently in 2024, this wasn't really about Trump. In fact, after the assassination, he was largely withdrawn. Like he was there, but he was nowhere near in the front of what was happening. Right? You had the big RFK moment, right, where suddenly MAGA and MAHA co-emerged with each other. And RFK is not signing up for big chunks of MAGA. Like he's not saying, hey, I'm here to bend the knee and serve, Trump and align with him on every policy. What he's saying is there's something going on that's bigger than both of us. And he's actually explicitly saying it's spiritual. In fact, Trump is explicitly saying it's spiritual. You may not believe it, but I think it's hard not to believe Kennedy's expression. I tend to believe both, but in any event. And then you get all these other folks, right? Musk participates. And you might say cynically, well, Musk is looking for a way to leverage control in politics, and probably true. And the guys expressly said, hey, by the way, I'm also playing Diablo at the highest level in the world while doing all the rest of this stuff with just my left hand. Like I'm only playing with my left hand. My right hand is tweeting, right? And who knows what I'm using to buy Twitter with. But by expressing that, he's letting you know, yeah, of course, this is part of a strategy. And also, maybe this is bigger than me, right? There's something going on that is bigger. So that notion of what's unfolding, what's the unfolding, and what is actually carrying these things along, that has the power of drawing in people from that wouldn't naturally seem to fit together, right? They aren't part of a alliance, like Thiel calls it the rebel alliance, which I think he took from Weinstein, actually. I think Eric may have taken that from me, but it doesn't matter. But the Empire, right, and the Rebel Alliance, it's a good archetype for at least Gen X, and maybe millennials too. Do you guys watch Star Wars?
Yeah, I'll be 40 next year. I was alone in my Star Wars watching, but yes, I watched it religiously as a kid. Still do with my son.
We had the advantage as Gen X's that there were only the first three, so all the heretical elements were not part of the story. It was just the core canon for an entire generation.
I was 14 when Episode 1 came out, so I had lived in from like 4 to 14 with the first three. So I'm kind of
you were sort of held. So I think a lot of what's going to happen over the next year, right? Because it should likely unfold rather rapidly, is going to be governed by the degree to which something is unfolding that is happening at a much higher level. Right? A spiritual war has been happening for a long time, and some big pieces of that are now beginning to show up, and we can see it, we can witness it almost diagnostically. Now, of course, the individuals involved have a real role to play, but it's like the shape of the space that they're operating in is governed by something very different than they themselves.
Yeah, they tried to embody some of this during the campaigns after 9/11 with re-invoking the axis of evil, but I think that was what really when you harken back to the World War II times and when we were really going up against these powerful world dominating forces, that would be more akin maybe to how it feels. And I guess something I was wanting to ask you about is, we say these things have a place on the stack and where they should be in priority within our heart and our mind and these things. But it is just, it's hard for me not to just be like, pop the popcorn, man, this is exciting. Like I'm like, what's going to happen? That's how I feel. I guess a lot of people are scared, but it is, or insecure or something, but like, I am kind of excited in a way. And it's hard for me not to feel that way, I guess. But, I don't feel like it's not gloating. It's just like the bubble feels like it has popped. And it is, I'm interested to see if it does, if the Doge thing really does Doge, like, will it actually do what it says? And like,
moon, you could say it that way. You can keep
is
crossing.
it gonna go to the moon? Yeah. Is it gonna take off? And
well,
so,
I feel like just a moment back, I want to just, I'd like to
yeah,
use this opportunity to
yeah,
rebuke in the most profound way possible everything connected with the neocons. I would like, and if, by the way, if Doge would like to add a guillotine division, I'd be more than happy to run the guillotine with regard to all of the neocons, right?
wow.
The moment of 9/11, which was a profound movement into reality for the world, certainly for Americans, but I noticed at the moment, right, so whatever 9/11 and 9/12, there was a movement into reality and an opportunity to step into that reality, which was utterly prostituted by the neocons.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the most divine sense possible. Right. And so therefore, I hold them deeply responsible for some of the most profane and ugliest things that are imaginable. I would like to hold them personally responsible if that can be done. Now, I have been told, and I believe this is correct, that it is vengeance is God's, not mine. So at that point, I will step back and let God can work out what he wants to work out, and he certainly will. But it's just to take that moment out there, and it simplifies things tremendously, because if you go out in social media and you just tag individuals as neocon or neocon adjacent, you can use their signals to tell you which direction evil's coming from.
Wow, that's a bold statement, and it has been more clarifying for me, politically in this. I think all those things used to be very ambiguous and abstract to me, but through the last 8 years, those things have become, and I think that in some ways, maybe this is harsh, but you're deluding yourself to think that it's not, that it is business as usual and status quo of years gone by. Like I just don't see that, but I wasn't there at those times either, but I don't know. I wanted to, it is animating. I feel animated by it, and I don't know if I should, but I do. And I think sometimes,
I mean, you might as well, right? You might as well step into life. It may have been an accident or a mistake, but stepping in is better than stepping away, even if you step in shit.
Hi, this is Christian Baxter, and you're listening to Yours Truly, a place we go to think out loud.